You don't usually feel tension before a game like this, especially against a team that hasn't been able to keep up with anyone lately, but inside Los Angeles, the mood isn't as relaxed as people might expect. There's a very specific reason for that, and it starts with the absence of the player who has been carrying the weight of this team night after night. Luka Doncic won't be on the floor Monday, and that changes more than just the lineup. It changes the rhythm, the confidence, the way this team imposes itself from the opening possession. The suspension came after his 16th technical foul, something the league doesn't negotiate, and internally it hit harder than people think. This wasn't frustration toward the league, it was frustration with himself. What's coming out from inside the building is that he took it personally. Not in a dramatic way, but in the way a player does when he feels responsible for something slipping, even if it's just one night. He wanted to be out there. That part matters more than anything. This is not someone looking for rest, not someone pacing himself this late in the season. And the timing couldn't be worse because he's been playing at a level that demands attention across the entire league. 12 straight games over 30 points, 11 wins in that stretch, and a team that quietly climbed into one of the strongest positions in the conference. That kind of run doesn't just happen, it reshapes expectations. Right championship standard, if you believe stretches like that are what define who this team really is when everything starts clicking. Now, without him, everything shifts toward Austin Reeves, not just as a scorer, but as the one expected to organize, control pace, and keep everyone aligned. He's done it before in moments, but this is different. This is a full night where the responsibility is his from the first possession to the last. There's also a deeper layer here that people inside the organization are paying attention to. How this team responds without its most dominant presence says a lot about how real this group is. Not in terms of winning one game, but in terms of identity. Teams that go far don't fall apart when one piece is missing, even if that piece has been carrying everything. If you're a real Lakers fan and want to stay updated on everything happening with this team, subscribe now because things could get interesting very soon. The rotation will stretch. Hachimura will need to be assertive, not just efficient. Kennard's shooting becomes more than spacing, it becomes necessary. And there's real curiosity around how much responsibility Bronny James can handle if his minutes increase again. These aren't random adjustments. These are tests happening in real time. Comment, Los Angeles expects more. If you believe nights like this reveal what this team is truly made of. At the same time, there's a sense that this game isn't just about the opponent. Washington arrives struggling, on tired legs, with their season already pointing in another direction. But inside this building, no one is approaching it that way. Not with the standings this tight, not with the margin for error shrinking every single night. There's also another conversation quietly gaining traction, and it's about recognition. What Doncic has been doing hasn't fully translated into how the league is talking about him. Even inside the locker room, that hasn't gone unnoticed. Reeves himself has made it clear that what's happening on the floor deserves a different level of attention. And that fuels something. Not anger, not noise, but a quiet edge. The kind that builds over time and shows up when the games start to matter more than anything else. If you've followed this franchise long enough, you know moments like this tend to lead somewhere. Right, built for the bright lights. If you trust what this team becomes when the pressure starts to rise. Looking ahead, there's no real pause. The next game immediately raises the level of difficulty, and Doncic will be back, which changes everything again. But what happens tonight stays. The way this group responds, the way they carry themselves without their centerpiece, that doesn't disappear. And inside this season, where everything feels like it's building toward something bigger, these are the nights that quietly shape what comes next. Pay attention to how they handle this, because it tells you more than any headline ever will. If you've been following closely and don't want to miss what's about to unfold over these final games, now is the moment to stay locked in, because what's coming next with this team isn't going to wait for anyone to catch up. Because there's a feeling growing that this group hasn't shown its final version yet. And that's what makes this stretch so important. Not just the wins, not just the standings, but the way things are being built behind the scenes. Possession by possession, decision by decision. There's also something else worth paying attention to. The way Luka responded to this situation didn't create distance inside the locker room, it did the opposite. Teammates saw it. The accountability, the frustration directed inward, the desire to be out there no matter what. That kind of reaction tends to tighten a group, not divide it. And when a locker room starts to rally around that kind of energy, you begin to see different responses on the court. Extra effort on loose balls, better communication on defense, smarter possessions late in games. Those things don't show up in headlines, but they change outcomes when the margin gets thin. Austin Reaves understands the weight of this moment. Not in a loud way, not trying to force anything, but there's a clear expectation that he controls the tempo and keeps everything from slipping. This is where trust becomes visible. The coaching staff has leaned on him all season, and now it becomes unavoidable. Comment, never count out the Lake Show if you've seen nights like this turn into statements when people expected something easier. There's also a broader message being sent by how cautious the team is with injuries right now. Marcus Smart remains out, and that's not by accident. His presence defensively changes everything, but the organization is thinking beyond one night. They're protecting what matters most when the games truly carry weight. The same applies to the younger pieces. Theo Attawa being held out again says a lot about priorities. Development matters, but not at the cost of long-term availability. This is a team that understands timing, and right now, timing is everything. And while the opponent may not demand attention on paper, internally, there's no room for that mindset. This franchise doesn't operate that way, especially this late in the season. Every possession is being treated with purpose, because the margin between controlling your path and losing it can shrink in a matter of days. Right? La still believes if you trust this team knows exactly what's at stake in these final games. Then there's the outside noise, the MVP conversations, the comparisons, the rankings that don't fully reflect what's happening on the floor. Inside, that hasn't been ignored. It's being absorbed, processed, and quietly stored. Not for reaction, but for motivation when the moment demands it. And that moment is getting closer. Before things shift into that next phase, make sure you're here for it. If you've been following this team through different eras and you understand what it means when Los Angeles starts building momentum at this time of year, this is exactly when you want to stay connected. Subscribing now isn't about catching highlights later. It's about not missing the turning points as they happen, because once this story accelerates, it doesn't slow down for anyone trying to catch up. What happens next won't be defined by one absence or one game. It's going to be shaped by how this group responds over these final nights, how they carry pressure, how they adjust, and how they prove, once again, that this jersey demands more than just participation. And the next chapter is already starting to take form, whether people are ready to see it or not. Because internally, there's a clear understanding that this stretch is not just about holding position. It's about sending a message before the postseason even begins. And the way this group is approaching it says a lot about how seriously they're taking what's ahead. What stood out over the last 48 hours is how focused the coaching staff has been on details that usually only matter deeper into the playoffs. Late-game execution, defensive switches, spacing under pressure, these aren't adjustments made casually. They're being drilled now for a reason. There's also a quiet confidence around how this roster fits when everyone is available. Not a loud belief, not something being pushed publicly, but something that shows up in the way decisions are being made. The sense is that the pieces are there, they just need to align at the right time. And when you look at Luka's situation again, it almost reinforces that mindset. A setback, yes, but not something that shakes the foundation. If anything, it forces others to step into roles they might need later anyway. That's how teams build depth without talking about it. If you follow the Lakers and don't want to miss the next big story around this franchise, make sure to subscribe right now. Right, The Lake Show lives on if you believe moments like this sharpen a team instead of slowing it down. Another layer that can't be ignored is the presence of LeBron James in all of this. Not just what he does on the court, but how he sets the tone when situations like this come up. There's a steadiness there that doesn't change, regardless of circumstances. And for a team navigating pressure, that matters more than numbers. Recent comments from outside the basketball world have only added to the conversation around him. When someone like Tom Brady speaks the way he did, it goes beyond admiration. It becomes a reminder of how rare it is to maintain this level for this long. Inside the locker room, that kind of respect isn't taken lightly. It adds another layer of responsibility, especially for younger players who are still finding their place. Watching that level of professionalism up close changes how you approach your own role, and right now, that influence is being felt. Comment, "Legends built this floor," if you understand why wearing this jersey comes with expectations that don't fade over time. There's also growing anticipation around the next matchup, not just because of the opponent, but because it represents a return to full strength. Luka back on the floor, rotation stabilizing, and a chance to immediately test where things stand against a stronger challenge. But before that, this game still needs to be handled the right way, not just winning, but controlling it, showing discipline, avoiding lapses, maintaining focus from start to finish. Those are the details that separate teams that are preparing for something bigger. And if you've been tracking everything closely, you can feel where this is heading. This isn't random. This is a buildup. Make sure you're part of it before it reaches that next level. Subscribing now means you stay ahead of every shift, every update, every behind-the-scenes development that doesn't always make it into the headlines but changes everything on the court. Because when this team starts aligning at the right moment, the pace picks up fast. And the ones paying attention early are the ones who understand what's really happening. There's still more to unfold here, and the signals are already there for those who know where to look. Because once the full rotation is back in place, the expectations won't be about potential anymore. They'll be about execution. And inside this organization, that difference matters. What happens in these final games is setting the tone for everything that follows. The discipline, the composure, the response under pressure, it's all being evaluated in real time. Nothing is being overlooked. Right, this story is far from over if you believe there's still another level this team is about to reach. If you've followed the Lakers long enough, you know when something real is starting to take shape. Stay with the channel and subscribe now to keep up with every move, every update, and everything happening behind the scenes as this team pushes towards something bigger.